most people don't actually know what their level of freedom is.
Yeah.
They equate their level of freedom to someone else's level of freedom.
It's an idea of what freedom is rather than really sitting down and assessing, okay, if I wanted to be free, what does that mean for me? It can mean time freedom, it can mean financial freedom, but what really is financial freedom? To me, financial freedom is having the money to be able to do what I truly want to do when I want to do it.
Because there's plenty of people out there that have money, but they're not free. And there's plenty of people out there that don't have money, but are free.
When you strip it all back, there's people that live in the bush and they've got nothing. They've got a basic roof over their head and they grow their own vegetables and they're as happy as Larry, and that's freedom for them. Hey guys, welcome to the Freedom Renegades podcast. I'm Em.
And I'm Azza.
And we look forward to bringing you empowering messages from experts worldwide in the areas of wealth, health, and self, and also to share with you our story of how we took our lives from where we were to where we are actually right now, from the bare bones of our ass right the way through to having completed 50 property flips and now get to experience a level of freedom in both financially and time freedom that we could never have dreamed about. So I'm excited. It's been a project that's been on the shelf for about 10 years now, but we're not professional speakers, so go easy.
So we still continue to flip property, guys. We are the founders of the Fast Flip Formula as well, which is a real estate education program. But this podcast is more about bringing everyone from where they are to where they want to be in the following modalities of their health, wealth, and self.
We're going to be bringing you expert speakers from all around the world, and we've got some pretty cracking speakers. So buckle up. You're in for a ride. We are so excited about this project and we hope you are too. So we'll see you on the other side.
Let's do it. Most people, I'll kick off. Do I go first?
Go for it.
I believe most people's level of freedom, they place well beyond where they are because they measure their level of freedom to someone else's level of freedom. So therefore they believe it's too far away, so why even start?
I also think that people tend to try and judge their first chapter with somebody else's whole story. And it's really important when you're on the journey to just focus on where you are at right now on your journey, because society imprints this vision of what success should be, and people pick up from the media, social media. We live in a world that's so full of influencers and, Instagram showing people that look wealthy, they look happy, they look successful, but really underneath it all, you've got to ask yourself whether it's real or not. And I think really that's the one thing that is huge that's keeping people from success, because their idea of what success is perhaps isn't accurate.
Yeah, and I believe most people don't even actually understand what freedom means to them. So
No.
Because what freedom means to me, I know is definitely different to what it means to you, and I know it's definitely a different level to what it means to someone else. Like most people's level of freedom, most people don't actually know what their level of freedom is.
Yeah.
They equate their level of freedom to someone else's level of freedom.
Well, yeah, and I think sometimes it's an idea of what freedom is rather than really sitting down and assessing, okay, if I wanted to be free, what does that mean for me? It can mean time freedom, it can mean financial freedom, but what really is financial freedom? To me, financial freedom is having the money to be able to do what I truly want to do when I want to do it with whoever I want to do it with. And a classic example of that is how recently and often we've been traveling to see family, and the ability to be able to stay as long as we want, to be able to help out our family when they need us, and to not have to worry about the restraints of time or money in that equation to be able to do that. And to me, I'm allergic to working for a boss. Now, there's nothing wrong with working in a job. Absolutely nothing, especially if you're passionate about it. I know plenty of people who love their job, but at the end of the day, you're capped on the amount of money that you can earn, because you can only earn how many hours you can work in any one given day, right? And we're all getting the same amount of hours.
But even that, like the amount of people out there that tie success or money to freedom, they're completely different things.
100%.
Because there's plenty of people out there that have money, but they're not free. And there's plenty of people out there that don't have money, but are free.
Yeah.
So again, it's really nailing down what does freedom mean to you and what are you trying to chase?
Yes.
Because if you equate freedom to success or money, I guarantee unless you get those right, because most people, again, put a level of success so far beyond where they are that they don't think they can ever get there. We know plenty of people who don't have an abundance of money, but they are very successful and they've got a lot of freedom.
Social media has a lot to answer for. I think we tend to look at social media and it's all about material. It's all about keeping up with the Joneses and being the biggest and the best and the greatest and an absolute fight for attention.
Yep.
When really, when you strip it all back, there's people that live in the bush and they've got nothing. They've got a basic roof over their head and they grow their own vegetables and they're as happy as Larry, and that's freedom for them. Yes.
And that's
it does sound amazing.
So clear that there's so many different levels to freedom. There's so many different levels to success. There's so many different freedoms to wealth. Like so many people think their level of wealth has to be like there's billionaires in the world, guys. There's guys that has tens, if not hundreds of billions of dollars, which is insane. So if that's your level of wealth, then you're never going to get there.
One thing that I know to be true is that money, to me, and in reality, is just a commodity of exchange. So whatever it is that you want or desire in the world, obviously money makes it an easier prospect to have those things that you desire. But if those things that you desire don't require a lot of money, then of course it's not really going to be high up on the priority list for you. But it is just a commodity of exchange. That's it. It just buys you choices.
Yeah.
At the end of the day. So yeah, I think it's choices for me that equals freedom. Choices to do what I want when I want with whoever I want.
Yeah. And they don't have to be expensive choices. Like again,
No.
It doesn't have to relate to the wealth part either.
No, 100%. And also time is money. So time for me is one of my absolute up there highest values. Up there with freedom, up there with justice. But time for me is everything because it's the only non-renewable resource, right? They're not making any more of it.
Not as far as I know.
So not last time I checked.
As far as I know, what we've got.
Right? So if you can have more flexibility around the choices of how you spend your time, then to me that's the ultimate freedom.
I had a level of success in my head that was so far removed that I always was trying to hit that bar, but as you move forward, that bar just keeps on moving.
The goalposts.
The goal, yeah. So again, with freedom, there's so many people out there that could be free tomorrow, but they think they need to keep either making more money or they need to be buying and living in bigger houses or buying more cars. And therefore, it can become, most people try to aim for success or freedom to like escape the rat race, get out of that 9 to 5 and create freedom for themselves. But a lot of successful people actually get themselves trapped on that hamster wheel where you start off, like, again, guilty as charged. My goal and our goal when we first started out was to have 2 million was my figure. And then as you get to that 2 million, then it becomes 5. And then you sort of start pushing towards the 5 and then it becomes 10. So most people and most successful people are found guilty of the continuous chase, I suppose you could say.
Well, yeah, and I think it comes down a lot to conditioning, and I think it comes down to what you said about the goalposts. As humans, we're conditioned to strive and to go for the next thing. So once we achieve something, we want the next thing, and we want the next thing, and we're built that way, I believe. And I think what's missing so much in today's world is gratitude. And I think when you are grateful for what you have, there is a different level of satisfaction, and it may just be that the striving for the next thing and the next thing is just a level of unfulfillment personally within yourself more than it is about needing or wanting or desiring the next goalpost.
Well, it's the same old thing when people, you tie happiness to money. And people say, money won't buy you happiness. Well, it won't buy you happiness, it won't make you happy, but it can buy things that can make you happy.
So there is a lot more
depending
choices.
on how you spend it. But necessarily, like the more money you make, I know plenty of people that have got millions of dollars and they're not that happy.
And look, and on that as well, one really important thing that I don't think a lot of people do much of anymore is tithing and giving back. And that brings such a different level of self-satisfaction and fulfillment that it gets to a point where it's no longer about you and it's no longer about what you can get and the material things and whatever. I mean, once you've got it, a roof over your head and you can afford to eat whatever you want and you can go on holidays whenever you want, it sort of becomes about something else. And if you don't have something that you're giving to, and you know, it's funny because Tony Robbins said this, that if you're not giving along the way on the journey, that don't think you're going to do it when you hit $1 million because
you won't give away 10 cents, you won't give away $10, you won't give away 10,000.
Exactly. But I think the very practice of doing that along the way is also a part of the journey. It's also a part of getting to the goalpost. And that level of feeling unfulfilled, even though you've had success and even though you might, you know, have the financial freedom, but you don't feel that sense of fulfillment is because you've stopped contributing or you've stopped giving back, if you will, and it's all become inside. It's all become internal. It's all about you and, you know, how many Lamborghinis can you buy? Do you know what I mean? But
again, it depends it depends what you're tying to freedom. If you're tying significance to a lot of this stuff, then maybe you do need to have the most cars in the garage. You do need to have the biggest house.
Yeah.
But I think, like as you said about
human
giving,
needs.
if you aren't, you know, most people aren't willing to give until they say, "Oh, once I get $1 million, I'll give away 100,000." You won't. If you're not willing to give away $10 out of 100, it's the same percentage, so you won't do it. But most of the time, people get to that point where they're chasing success. You're chasing a number, or you're chasing a figure that you won't give up, say $1,000, because you're hoarding it. You're trying to save yourself rich still. Which I think,
you can't
as
save
we always say, it
yourself
sort of
rich.
constipates the system. Like money's meant to flow. Like it comes in, it goes out. It comes in, it goes out. And I think we've noticed, like more than ever, like the more you actually let the money come in, but also then let it go back out into other things, it comes back. And it's ebbs and flows.
Yeah, and going back to your original question about why some people may never reach a level of success that they're happy with, and I think there's a big one around the conditioning, human conditioning, and what we're taught as a kid growing up. And to quote the amazing T. Harv Eker, he said, he coined it as a blueprint, your money blueprint, and how you grew up, what your beliefs were around money, what you believe will come of having money, because you can't have that which you negate, right? And I think if we grow up thinking money's evil, money doesn't grow on trees,
Money's hard.
It's hard, money's hard, it's the root of all evil, whatever you've been taught as a kid. Or you might have not been taught any of those things, but you've had an experience where money has led to a negative experience, then no matter how much you try and become successful and strive and work your butt off to get the wealth, for some reason or another, you're going to find a way to F it up. You're going to find a way to push it away.
Yeah, you'll get it, but you'll lose it pretty quick.
You'll get it and you'll lose it pretty quick, because you just take the example of people that win the lotto and almost every single time statistically, anybody that wins the lottery will find a way to lose all of that money. Not lose it. It's not going to get lost, but they'll find a way to not have that money in 12 months after they've had that money, because their money blueprint, their mindset isn't in an abundant enough state to hold on to it, if that makes sense, because their financial bucket is too small. And so, if you don't have a big enough financial bucket, meaning your mindset, then you can only fill the bucket to the size of the bucket, and the rest is going to overflow and go elsewhere.
Yep.
So, yeah, I think conditioning.
Do you want to discuss how big your bucket was when we first got together?
Oh, my God.
Is that going to save that for another podcast
No,
another day?
My financial bucket was shit. It was so small.
When Em and I first got together, and even before we even probably started in business, it was my money bucket was quite large, in the sense that I wanted to fill it as much as I possibly could, but I'd also let it flow and I'd like to spend it.
He was very flowing.
Em was walking around with a little shot glass.
Yeah, I was about as frugal as they come, and my backside was like that with money when it came to money. And, I come from an acting background and musical theatre, and it's one of those industries that it's feast or famine. You're either in work or you're not in work. One week you're up and the next week you're on, the bare bones of your backside and trying to work out how you're going to pay your rent and where the next meal's coming from. Like, I could tell you some stories around that. And what that does is it makes your financial blueprint tiny. And the ability to think big is just really not possible. So yeah, I was definitely making a whole bunch of different choices. About having a tight sphincter. It was like,
but it was also a work in progress too. Like, we were still constantly working on our money blueprint, our money buckets, because when we first started dealing real estate, it was $300,000 or $400,000 properties that we were getting in and out of and making $50,000 to $100,000 at a time, and then the property market moves and inflate, like prices go up, and then all of a sudden you start dealing with the $700,000 or $800,000 properties, and then you got to sort of grow to another level to handle that sort of amount of money.
And that's just it. Sorry.
No, I was just going to say, and then before you know it, like in a space of say 4 to 5 years, we're now dealing in $1 million properties and multiple of them at a time. You have to have an abundant mindset, and you have to be okay with larger numbers to be able to handle larger numbers.
Yeah.
So it's a constant work in progress. It's not like you just go to one seminar one day and walk out with a massive money blueprint and a big bucket.
No, it is a work in progress, and it's something that needs to be worked on every single day. And, the best example of my very, very small money mindset was when for those that don't know, I bought my first house for $1,000. That's a whole nother story. But I was able to refinance. There was more to that story than that, by the way. I had a 12-month settlement, rented each room separately, which was positive cash flow in my pocket from a property that I hadn't owned yet. And 12 months later was able to settle on that property with a joint venture partner. But fast forward 6 months or 12 months or whatever it was back then, it's 12 years ago now. But I was able to refinance that property and pull out $50,000. And I know that you remember.
Was it 50 or 80?
No, it was $50,000. I remember
it was $1,000 a week.
No. I was able to refinance out $50,000 of equity.
Yeah, but in your head, wasn't that going to be $1,000 a week?
Oh my God. In my head, I thought I was made. I thought I was sorted. I thought for the next year at least, I don't have to work. I can just leave my job, work from home on my business. And, back then my business consisted of what I guess was my very first podcast, if I ever had one before this. But, I had no idea how to monetize it or any of that. And now, and hence why for, you guys watching, this is why that project was put on the shelf for 10 years. Because it was something that you want to do because you love doing it and you want to share exciting guests and their journeys with everybody, but you don't want it to have to be about money. You don't want it to monetize. So, I thought I could go and do this interviewing thing. Back then, I think it was on Google something or other. I can't even remember what it was called. But it was back before Zoom and all that. Anyway, and then I got into US real estate and I thought, oh my God, I've got this $50,000. I'm going to fly to America. I'm going to be there for 3 weeks and go and look at all these properties and whatever. And just like the people that win the lotto, that money literally evaporated in through my fingers.
To catch water with your hands.
Yeah, it's like exactly trying to catch water with my hands. And that was just the most classic example of me not understanding the value of money, not understanding what $50,000 meant because I'd never held that amount of money.
Yeah.
So I thought it was going to last forever. I thought I was made up and that was it, and I've got all this time now that I don't have to go into a job. Oh my God, imagine what I could do with that time. Well, it went pretty quick and so did the money. I think it's super important that we work on our money mindset, growing and coming from a place of gratitude, but also growing our wealth creation practices, which we won't go into now, but there's a whole bunch of things that we still do every single day to grow our money mindset and to maintain it, because it's not just about growing it, it's about maintaining it.
I think the easiest part is to sort of work on growing it and get excited about dealing with bigger sums of money and having access to more money, but it's also how to hold it and how to hold that mindset around knowing that, okay, I've made 10,000. I don't have to hoard that 10,000 because I know I'm going to make another 10,000, or I know I'm going to go and do another deal.
Yeah.
You're not trying to just hoard every cent you earn because you're worried that you're going to lose it all again.
Oh my God. Absolutely. And that makes so much sense now that you've said that out loud, because from that moment on, I became the biggest tight-fisted human on the planet.
I think you reverted back to being way worse than what you originally started at.
Hey, but there is still some traits of that exist. I still love a good op shop. But anyway, so yeah, that's definitely something that I think holds people back a lot from becoming successful, is the fact that their narrative around what success is, and also past conditioning of whether or not they feel worthy of that success. And if you don't feel worthy of something, then you're not going to go chasing it.
Knowing that we're in a position now where we get to help our families and support our families in a much bigger way. And I think knowing that, yes, we've been able to create wealth and earn money for ourselves, but knowing that, removing it from ourselves, like we know we're fine, like we're good. We could sell down everything and just own our house outright and have plenty of money in the bank to be invested for the rest of our lives. But knowing that the ability we have to, one, make money for ourselves and continue growing our wealth, two, be able to support our families and, look at, really helping out extended families from brothers and sisters to brothers. We don't have any sisters, brothers, but nieces and nephews. But then, work on it every day is knowing that how to share it with other people and how to hold yourself to that accountable point where, you don't just give up or you don't just stop. And as we touched on before, it's not about that level of success or the level of freedom and growing that anymore, because we're both pretty simple sort of people. Like, we don't really want for much in that sense. But the fulfillment that it gives us to be able to then share and pass on our knowledge, what we've been able to implement, what we've been able to do with others, that's probably what drives us more than the money itself, I suppose.
In terms of what we do on a daily basis, there's a lot of rituals that we do every day without going down a woo-woo path, but we exercise. We really value our health. I think that is super important, because your mind, not to go into a health lecture or anything like that, but your mind and your gut are directly related. And if you're not exercising and keeping active, if you're not growing, you're dying. And it's so important to, we did a podcast the other day with Tyler Tolman, and we were talking about, the importance of peak state physically to have a peak state mentally, and we work on our mindset too. Like, every morning I will listen to a podcast of our choosing on a walk. So I'll go for a walk, get my body moving. And when I say exercise, it doesn't have to be, you don't go to the gym and pump all these weights and, go crazy. Like, something just like a simple 10-minute walk or a 15-minute walk with a bit of a stretch, and getting yourself into your body and getting moving. And I'll try and sweat every day, because I think it's so important to get the toxins out of your system. We're so bombarded, especially in this day and age, with, everything out there in the atmosphere and like sprayed on food, and don't even get me started. I won't go down that rabbit hole, but, we're pushing it uphill with our environmental factors. So I think it's so important that we can do what we can do that is in our control to look after ourselves, our beings, our temples, because this is the thing that this meat suit that we walk around in every single day is going to be partly responsible for our outcomes. Because, if you're feeling like shitty and lethargic and,
tired and
grumpy, you're not going to be like
motivated to go out and do things.
You're not going to be motivated. No. You're also not going to be a magnet to the things that you want either. Like, I don't know about you, like, but if someone's like miserable and grumpy and, that kind of energy, do you really want to hang around with them? Do you really want to do business with them? Do you really want to, you're not going to be attracted to them. You're just going to walk in the opposite direction. So think about, if that was you, are you going to attract in success that way? Probably not. So we focus physically.
On a daily rituals thing, it's probably to help. Like we hold each other accountable, but holding ourselves accountable because we are lucky enough to be in multiple businesses together. We are lucky enough to share a bed and live together. But if you're not in a healthy way or you're tired and you're a bit grumpy, then I don't really want to hang around you much because you don't want to hang around you much.
Hey, likewise,
and vice
buddy.
versa. And vice versa. So it helps me hold accountable. Like I want to be healthy and I want to be fit and I want to be, working towards something that I actually get enjoyment out of and fulfillment out of. Because if I'm not, then you just end up being, as you said, a grumpy person to be around.
You shared.
We share.
No, but the other one thing that is super powerful, and I'm going to get crucified for this. I know I am, but the one thing that I picked up years ago, well, actually, let me take it back a step. One thing that we hold up there in importance is personal development. So we will always be working on ourselves and growing ourselves in personal development or some sort of mindset coaching. I don't believe that you ever should stop learning or growing yourself. So we will always continue to invest in a coach. We've got coaches now. And I think that desire to hold yourself to a higher level, you've always got to maintain that because it's really, you never hit the summit. You never, get to a point where you're like, oh, good, I'm here now.
I read that book. I'm good now.
Yeah. Like, is it Zig Ziglar that says it's like bathing?
It's like bathing.
You don't just do it once.
Recommend it daily.
You got to repeat it all the time.
Yeah.
So it's the same. And, we do weird woo-woo stuff. Like I'll say my declarations every single day in the shower. And we write down our successes of a nighttime, like even if it's just a couple, but write down a list of, I try and write 5 of successes that I had for that day because the way you go to sleep is the way you wake up. And if you go to bed in a positive mind frame, then it's safe to say that you're going to, that's why they say never go to sleep on an argument, right? You always try and resolve it.
That's bullshit.
What are you talking about?
People always say that, never go to bed angry. Some days you just go to bed angry.
Yeah, well, you shouldn't.
Well, we do.
Let's smack you in a minute.
I'm just saying, they're so cliche about I'll never go to bed angry.
Together.
Thing.
Seriously, some days I want to kill
don't
you.
Know. Like 10 years in and I don't know.
But yeah, no, look, I find that really works for me. Is writing down my successes of the day, even if it's tiny. It might just be I picked up the post from the post office, something tiny. But the more you write it, hang on, let me finish. The more you write it down and acknowledge it, the more you start seeing it, right? Because what you focus on expands. So if you're writing down successes every night before you go to bed, then you wake up, it's compounding. So you wake up in a better mood, then you have a better day, then you write down more successes, then you wake up even better mood. So it's this compounding effect. So I find if you're going to do one thing only to change everything tomorrow, to start changing everything tomorrow, it would be that. Yeah.
I was going to say, we sort of went on a bit of a tangent there.
I did go on a bit of a tangent, sorry.
But it's so, we all as humans overcomplicate things as well. If you aren't having good days, then you just want to slowly change what you do in those days, whether it's your rituals or the way your whole day rolls out. And for me, it's not the big things that make the biggest difference. It's the small things. It's just as Em said, exercising doesn't have to mean go to the gym for an hour and bust it out. It could be a half an hour walk. And then it's just making sure you get the 2 litres of water in a day and then get some decent sleep. And for me, on top of that, it's having a sauna and an ice bath. Like those simple things. And when I first started implementing those things, I didn't do ice baths when everyone else first started doing them. If everyone else is doing something, I don't do it. When it's no longer a fad, then I might jump into it and have a go. And I regret that because it's one of the best things I ever did. For one, it was dopamine, all the benefits, but it was just another simple thing we could introduce to our daily habits that then I just had a really good day. I remember the first time I went to the gym, came home and did the sauna, then jumped in the ice bath. I just noticed that I just felt much better that whole day.
Tell you one thing I don't
do that again.
We don't watch the news.
No.
In fact, we don't really watch mainstream TV, to be honest.
Can't stand it.
Yeah, I mean, why would you fill your head when you've got very limited spare time of a day? Why would you spend it filling your head with all the negative woes of the world? That is just not a recipe for success at all. It's going to pull you down quicker than you can blink.
Yeah. the biggest lie that society tells us about success is the fact that it's tied to money.
Boy, yes. Boom.
As I said before, there's so many successful people out there that don't have a great deal of money. But there's also, on the other side of the coin, there's plenty of people out there that got plenty of money but still aren't successful.
God, yeah. Or healthy.
And it's that different, as I said earlier, like there's so many different levels of success and then so many different levels of freedom and so many different levels of wealth, like money. Like you could be a millionaire and still nowhere near the top 1%. Like it's crazy. They know what someone else wants and therefore they think that's what I want. It's like when you go to any seminar in the world these days and they put up the whole, who wants, what does wealth or what does financial freedom mean to you? And everyone's like holidays, travel, cars, boats, houses, all the things. 90% of people sitting in that room would have no idea what success means to them because they've never actually sat down for 5 minutes to actually work it out.
Yep, I would have to agree with that. But I would also go one deeper and go out on a limb here. And again, I'm probably going to get shot down for this. Hopefully not literally. But I think that there's a lot of significance and purpose tied to tangible material things.
Keeping up with the Joneses, as we say.
A fair amount of people, yeah. And yes, the need to keep up with the Joneses is really just a lack of purpose or fulfillment on some level, I guess. And it's that purpose tied or significance tied to materialistic things, but not really an understanding of what someone perhaps might truly desire, because we're not taught that. We're not taught to really sit with what we want out of life, right? We're taught to go to school, leave school, go to university, get a job, be in the job for God knows how long, become a parent and then run around after your kids for the next 18 years and run yourself into the ground, trying to do everything, trying to balance both parents working and coming home late at night. And who has time to sit there and really go within and explore what you want out of life? We don't have time. And I think that is a societal thing. I think that we're put on a treadmill from such a young age and not shown a way to get off it. And that's something that I'm really passionate about because I was shown a way to get off it. And, I think if it hadn't have been for the fact that I was, down to the last brass razoo in my pocket, then I probably wouldn't have felt the compulsion to do anything about it, because the worst, the biggest danger in this world, I feel, is being comfortable. Mm-hmm. Because comfortability breeds complacency. Yep. And sometimes it takes for you to get to the worst possible situation in your life where you've just literally got nothing left to your name for you to want to change, or things are the pain is worse than the prospect of moving out of it. So where was I going with that? I went off on another tangent again, which is so unlike me. But yeah, I think that society has a lot to answer for when it comes to making it really difficult to dream and to focus on what it is that you actually want, and instead of chasing the narrative of what we're taught to think we want. And it's all media driven a lot of the time.
We've got students that, some people, their idea of freedom is they want to be multimillionaires, they want to have millions of dollars, they want to go and buy the nice cars, the nice boats, then live in the big houses. Yeah. We've got plenty of students who want to do one deal a year just so they can only work part-time instead of full-time and just have better holidays and spend more time with their kids and their partners. That to them is their level of freedom. So that's where I want most people to get to, is understand what freedom means to you. Not your friend, not your wife, not your best mate, not your mum and dad, not your brother or sister, because their level of freedom is, maybe less or more than yours, but they're going to tell you probably can't hit it because they haven't got it for themselves. So for you to know what freedom is for you, what success is for you, you do need to take the 5-10 minutes and sit down and with a note and pad and pen and paper. I remember we used to go to events and I used to hate when they'd say, all right, pull out your pens and paper and we're going to write down your top 10 goals or the next 3-year plan. And you'd start writing some things down, but then you'd look at the guy next to you and you're like, oh shit, I'm not thinking big enough. He wants $10 million a month. I was happy with $10 million a year. So then you start questioning yourself, but then you start thinking, well, hang on, I'm on $150,000 a year at the moment. How am I supposed to get to 10 million? That's too far away. So therefore I'd just stop the whole process. Like I'd stop writing. I'd stop thinking. Because I'm like, well, if he's writing down 10 million, I can't just write down $1 million because that's not big enough. That's not grandiose enough. So I'd stop doing the process.
Yeah. When bottom line, we're not taught to think big. We're not taught to think at all. We've got a couple of students of ours as well that they have the best life. They live in their caravan and they go around Australia, and wherever they find a Renault flip, they'll stop and they'll do the deal. But they live the best life because they're nomads and they're quite happy with that.
Yeah.
To live on the road.
Do refinery work and do the same thing. He'd do shutdowns. So he'd work for like 3 months straight, 12, 14 hours a day, 6 days a week, save up another 100 grand and then disappear for 6 months again. Like he lives an amazing life. He loves it.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, 100%. I'll be the first person to put my hand up, and you'll probably know exactly what I'm saying. Making $1 million. My goal was to make $1 million. Once I make $1 million, I'll be happy. Couldn't have been more fucking wrong. I think at the time when we sort of hit millionaire status was probably when I went through like almost like a second bout of depression and the anxiety, and I was not enough because I thought making $1 million would make me happy. I'd be like, oh yes, I'm a millionaire. I said I was going to be a millionaire. I've made it to being a millionaire. And then all of a sudden you look to the guy or girl next to you and they're making 5 million, and then the guy behind is making 10 million. And then all of a sudden you feel like you haven't really made anything. So for me, it was a big kick up the ass to realize that money is amazing. I love money, don't get me wrong. But yeah, the goal of making money was going to make me happy, and it didn't.
It's interesting. We've had a wild 10 years. It's been a lot. And one of the strategies that we chose to build our portfolio along the way, in between flipping, was Airbnb as a strategy. And it's when it very first came out, and it was exciting. And, I'll never forget the first time we decided to go to Melbourne to visit family, and I thought, oh, you know what, Az, I'm going to give this Airbnb thing a crack. And we put our place at the time on Airbnb, and within 2 hours we're laying in bed, and I just listed the listing, and ding, 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 the phone's going off and all these bookings are coming in, and oh my God, thought I was Christmas. It was like raining money. It was insane. But very quickly we thought, oh, that worked. Let's go and do another one. So we did another one, and we did another one. And then we went, oh, shit, this is working really well. We actually need to go and rent somewhere to live because we keep Airbnb-ing our place. And then every flip we do, we'd Airbnb it. And so we kept kicking ourselves out of our house.
Spent 2 years in a suitcase.
Yeah, we lived in a suitcase for about 2 or 3 years. It was crazy. But then surely enough after that, a bunch of people that we were meeting along the way started asking us, well, can you do that for us? Could you Airbnb our place? And we're like, well, okay.
Sure.
And before you know it, we'd accumulated 35 plus listings, plus our own. And so we turned into this unintentional property management service come, booking service for guests and holiday rental. And oh my God, we could never have a life. We went out to friends' places on a Saturday night, and bugger me as if it knew that we were trying to have some time off. Every single Saturday night without fail, we would walk in the door of wherever we were going and, unload our food and sit down and pour a drink, and then
bang.
Oh my God, the world would blow up for internet, linen, keys, you name it. And I think we nearly drove ourselves to distraction. We literally nearly had a nervous breakdown. We had flipping still going on. We were doing several flips. We hadn't started Fast Flip Formula at this time yet. Thank God. Because I think we probably would have buried ourselves. But honestly, it was one of the hardest times of our life. So that was something that we did unintentionally. But at
the time, it was going to be our saving grace, because we thought, well, we can make our chunk cash doing the flips, but instead of living on the chunk cash from one deal to the next, we can then stuff that chunk cash away or hold that property, and then the Airbnb was our cash flow. But then, it sort of didn't really cash flow as much as we thought it was.
The other thing that we did that we thought was going to be different to how it was, and we had this warped perception of freedom, is on our very first deal. And I think before that, both of us had been working in JOBs, and we'd both been on the Central Coast, and as you'd picked up the insurance job on the Central Coast after all the storm damage, and as was called up there to do a bunch of storm damage repairs.
There for 6 weeks and ended up being there for 6 months.
6 weeks turned into 6 months. And so I ended up moving up there and got a job as the builder's cleaner. So I was going in after the boys.
Living the dream in a share house with about 14 guys, I think it was.
Yep. So life was made. So there was about 10 different guys or something, and then me.
Yep.
So that was fun. But we got up to Queensland and we'd figured it out. We'd bought this property, and at the 11th hour, the banks changed their policy from being 95% lending to 80% lending. So at the 11th hour, a week out from settlement, we had to come up with another 15% deposit. So I remember you went and hid in the cupboard at this point because
it was $60,000. I was like, we don't have $60,000. And who's going to give it to $60,000? My parents don't have $60,000, and my brother definitely is not going to give me $60,000. So I'm out of options.
Had to hustle. We had to hustle like I've never hustled before, and that's where you do the impossible. You just dive in and do the things that you would never do if you weren't in that situation, and all pride goes out the window. And luckily for you, I'd been networking like an absolute crazy person at the time at all different networking functions and whatnot, and so I had built up a database of investors and called upon one of them, and we were able to settle. But we had managed to also put aside, wait for it, we'd saved up $30,000 from your...
$30,000 was a shitload of money back then.
From your insurance job. So we had
money.
30 grand for the reno, and we thought, right, let's do this. We'd been wanting to renovate down in Melbourne and buy and renovate and sell down in Melbourne, but I don't know about you guys down in Melbourne, but the market there was ridiculous at the time. It had advertised for $200,000 less than what the starting bid would open up at the auction. So we just got really tired of that, and it was just kept on. The goalposts kept moving out of our reach. And anyway, we found this property in Queensland, got up there with our 30 grand, and at the time, I was doing cold call sales for a complete B grade, not even B grade, I'd be like Z grade newspaper at the time,
not
selling
popular.
advertising like slots for this newspaper that no one had ever heard of. So a real soul destroying, crushing job. You were on the jackhammer, so I was having to run over and do these sales calls from the park. But the point of me saying this is that, going back to the money mindset at the time, we thought $30,000 was going to last us for ages. And we kind of had forgotten about the things like living costs, bills, food utilities, all of the above, mortgage. We'd factored in the reno, but then we went, oh, shit. So not only were we living in, plaster dust, including in the toothbrush, yes, it was, and we had cafe de lounge room all over the floor of the living room, was our kitchen basically strewn from one end to the other.
We lived on that for about that whole 6 months.
Yeah, we weren't going without. We had Avo on toast. We had the coffee machine on the floor. We were good. But yeah, I think that's probably one of the biggest mistakes that we made early on, that, on our journey to success, and probably something that we probably had to go through at the time but would never do again, including living on a reno site.
Never again.
Never again.
I was at work. I was running a project down in Melbourne for a company that I'd done some work for up in Queensland previous, and then I met Em and was like, I'm and whether I stay in Queensland, move down to Melbourne. That company rang and said they got a project in Melbourne. Were you interested in going down there? So I said yes. And the project was about 3 or 4 weeks behind, and then 3 or 4 months later, I'd finished it like 2 weeks ahead of schedule. And it was on a Wednesday, and the guy was like, I need you to go to this other project now, Wednesday afternoon. And I was like, I'm out. Like, I've finished this project. I'm going to have a week or two off. Like, I'm a subcontractor. And he was like, no, you can't do that. We need you on the other project. And I was like, hang on, I don't work for you. I'm not an employee, but I'm a subcontractor. But then you're sort of telling me that I can't finish today. I have to keep working. And I was doing 6 days a week, 7 till 7, had to be there by 6:30, had to work until 3 at least, and if not stay till 5. So even though I was working for a company that didn't really appreciate me, for one, two, was making someone else rich, as you do. But I also got to the point where I was like, there has to be something else to this. Like, even though I was like earning decent money, I was bored. And then at the same around that same time was when we went to that evening seminar it was like 6 p.m. till 9 p.m., like a 3-hour seminar thing. And there was a couple up on stage that just shared their journey of how they cosmetically renovated a house and made about, I think, $85,000 in like 6 months. And I remember just looking at them and I was just like, why aren't we doing this? Like, I do this every day at work. I've been around real estate for 10 years. Why aren't we doing this? And then that was probably the line in the sand when I realized if someone, like the people up on stage, like no offense, but I think she was a nurse and he might have been like a butcher or a baker or something. Like they didn't have any trade background at all. And they just made 85 grand in 6 months. So in my head, I was like, well, I'm making 150, but I've got to work 6 days a week, 10-hour days for that and be told when I can be there, when I can't be there. And more importantly, I was getting told when I couldn't not be there. So that was the line in the sand for me. I was just like, I don't want to do this. There's got to be a better way.
Not only that, you were coming home freezing. I think the final straw from my memory was when you went to do a job for a lot less than what you should have been getting paid, because it was just about getting work at the time. And you were working, God, in the middle of arse end of nowhere in Victoria, and you had a bucket of hot water that all the boys on site were going and putting their hands in.
You just have to boil the kettle to put it in a bucket of water so you could like thaw your hands out every hour or so to keep working. And I remember this is after I'd moved to Queensland previously, and I remember going, what the fuck am I doing?
And then
get me out of here.
Then you were on site, which was only 17 kilometres away from home, and it was taking you 2.5 hours each way in Melbourne traffic.
So I suppose you could say there's been a few things that's maybe draw the line in the sand, and probably the thing is, I think there was probably a couple of times where I'd drawn the line in the sand, but then it never really committed into, okay, well, what's next? Like I sort of thought I could do this or thought about this, but like I tried Forex currency trading at one point because I thought I wanted to live a laptop lifestyle because I'd been to a seminar and heard all about that. And then I actually did the course. I was actually quite okay at it, but I had no capital, so it was boring. But then I was also like, I hate sitting at the computer. So I was like, as much as I wanted to have this laptop lifestyle, it's definitely not for me. Like I'm a hands-on sort of a guy. So
yeah, there's been many. Like I don't even know where to start. There's so many lines that I'm like a grid. But one of the biggest memories that sticks out for me was I don't know anyone out there that's ever experienced the entertainment industry, but it is extremely hand to mouth. You know, you're only ever as good as your last job, and it's so unlike any other industry where you go and you study for a period of time, you get a job, and you're pretty good in that job until, you know, unless anything major happens. But it's the complete opposite with entertainment gigs. You know, you've got a job for as long as that job lasts, and then you've got to go and start back at the bottom again to audition and get into your next role. And you're only going to get that job if the person on the day is in a good mood or likes you or thinks that you're a good fit or whatever. So you're always at the mercy of a panel of judges to determine your life outcome. And I'd been hustling at this point for 2 years solid, moved back home from overseas and started auditioning back here on my own, in my own country, on my home soil, you know, and it was my big goal to get a show. And it was like knockback after knockback after knockback after knockback, and finally landed a show in Australia. And it was supposed to be 13 months, got excited, went and got finance, bank approval for a loan to buy a house. And that's all I ever wanted, was to just own a house. Like that was my biggest dream. And it closed after 3 weeks through some poor decisions by the producers and, you know, a few other things that went wrong. And we were all, you know, out in the streets, unemployed, you know, found myself back on the stairs of the unemployment office. I'd never been to the unemployment office in my life. And so that was an experience, let me tell you. And I know a lot of people out there would have had that same experience. And I could not think of a more soul-crushing experience than having to do that. And the inner entrepreneur in me, I had the fire in my belly to start up a business, or all these ideas of how to make money, and I was doing it. I was actively pursuing that, and it just needed a little bit of time to get up and running, and just needed something in the interim to keep me going. But to have someone say that if you don't go and do this and work full time in this horrendous job for pittance, that you're not going to be able to get any unemployment assistance at all, was just soul destroying in the first place, just even being there, let alone to have somebody say that. So, I remember just going, to the supermarket and wondering, shit, I'm in the line of the checkout. Which card do I pull out? Which card isn't going to bounce? Which one has money on it? To pay for these groceries, and I hope I'm not going to have to put something back. And just going to the ATM to pull out money and wondering, if I was going to be able to pull out a 20. So things were really bad. And in fact, they were so bad that I distinctly remember burning my last piece of food, which was half a broccoli and onion and some chicken stock that I decided to make into soup for my dinner that night. And I'll never forget it. This mouse just went pew and ran across the floor, and I freaked out and went straight to the phone. What do? You call your mum. So I picked up the phone. I'm on the phone to mum, and I'm just, giving her my sob story. And all I can smell is this burning smell, and I'd burnt my last piece of food in the house to eat. And I don't know about you, but back at that stage, I was approaching 30 at the time, and I could not even feed myself. I couldn't afford to feed myself. So to me, that was my line in the sand. That was my defining moment of, you know what? I am not going to live this way. I need to grab life by the balls, and I need to be the thing that takes control of my life, because no one else is going to do it for me. No one else is going to, show me the way or give you the silver spoon or any of it. You've got to do it, and you've got to grind until you don't have to grind anymore. And that for me was the turning point. It's like, screw this. I am not going to live this way. I want empowerment. I want a life that I'm proud of. I want to live and do the things that I want to do with my life. And, and it didn't stop there. There was other experiences. I could go on and on and on. There was experiences where I worked in sales and, worked for a commission, and it was in cars, and, the dealership at the end of a full weekend of sales, I'd made them squillions. I'd made them hundreds of thousands of dollars in revenue over that weekend. And when I put in my invoice, they turned around and told me that it was just a daily rate that I was working for, and they weren't going to pay me the commissions.
That was also when we had no money.
We had nothing.
We were one project.
We were on our first project.
First or second project?
Yeah,
maybe first. And we'd put everything into our project. Em had gone to work this weekend job of selling this car in the car industry. And I remember you came home and told me what you'd sold for the day. I remember I think you even sent me a couple of texts during the day saying, "Oh my God, I've just sold another one. And we got home. I think we even celebrated as much as we could. We might have even went and shouted ourselves a bottle of champagne or something at the time, because in our head, I think it was close to like $5 or $10 grand that you'd made for the day. And we were like, that's going to last us for like months on how we've been living, and we're going to be able to finish the project. We're going to be able to finish the paint. Like, it was all these things. And then, the 2 days later or 3 days later, when they basically wrote you an email back saying, no, sorry, there's no commission. It's just your day rate. Talk about kick to the guts.
Oh my God. I've
knife
never
in the
been
tire.
So angry. Yeah. But my defining moment is being able to go back to them now and go, put that in your pipe and smoke it.
I think the moral of the story as well is, like, we've had multiple occasions of drawing lines in the sand. Even once you draw the line in the sand to move forward and you take ownership over your life, and you want to try and get to the point where you don't have to rely on anyone ever again for anything. There's plenty of those times where you have to draw another line in the sand, because, again, like that Airbnb business. Yeah. It was a great little business. If you just wanted to be, a stay-at-home mum per se and run a business on the side and earn probably $50,000 to $100,000 a year, great little business. But when it was taking away from our flipping, it was taking away from us time-wise. Like, we weren't getting along really well because we was just exhausted and just sick
It's
of
the
being
80-20.
so strung out. Yeah.
It was like 80% of our time or 90% of our time and 10% of our income if on a good day.
Yeah. So there was another line we had to draw in the sand of like, this can't continue. Like we need to shut this down or sell it or get out of it because it's actually crippling us and we weren't enjoying it. So we did. We drew the line in the sand. We sold the business and only sold it for a pittance because I was happy to give it away.
Yeah.
But and then even then, that line in the sand that we drew then was probably when we sort of really got serious about the flipping and really launching into business full time.
Yeah.
And doing it properly, like treating it as such as a business, not just doing a deal here and there.
One thing that's really stuck out that I've learned on this journey more than absolutely anything is keeping the one thing. That could not be more true in our life right now. If we had not stuck to property flipping as our one strategy, all of the strategies work. Let's be honest. Everything out there works because someone's done it before you, right? But if I had at one point, I think, as was like, I've got to do development, I've got to do the next big thing. I've got to, all right, we've done with flipping, we've proven we can do that. Let's go and get a development. And I'm like, babe, no, let's stick to this. This is working. And I think it was a mentor of ours that said to you at the time,
slapped me across the face a couple of times. And
what are you doing?
Why do you think you need to develop? And again, to me, it was that level of success that I was aiming for. Was there was guys that were developers that were developing big buildings or housing projects, and I thought, well, that's in my eyes, that's what success is. So that's what I have to now go and do. I've done a couple of flips, I've made a bit of money, but I want to go and make the big money, and then.
Yeah, and I think the bigger isn't better thing is what the belief that's been crushed for me because, the smallest deals that we've done in our 50 flips have yielded us in the biggest ways, the most. Like, for example, we've done big, long, drawn out, bigger projects that have, they might have made, a little bit here or there. They might have made maybe 30 to 50 grand. And then you've got the ones that have taken 3 weeks that made 300. So, I think at the end of the day, it's all about the relativity, but also we've learned that money and wealth comes from value, and the value that you can give, the more value you can give. In fact, I'm hearing Bob Proctor's voice in my head right now saying, if you can make 1 million people wealthy, you'll make $1 million. Help 1 million people, you'll get paid $1 million. And it could not be more true. Honestly, the more value you give to the world, the more value you get back. But I used to believe and really I knew that I could do it, but I just didn't. I couldn't visualize how. And I think I never believed it was possible for quote unquote someone like me. My biggest goal in this world was just to own a house, just to own my own home, live in my own home. So to have multiple property portfolio and to be able to have achieved and be able to give back in the way that we can give back now, that's a belief that has shifted for me. And I'm resisting saying this because I don't want to go too far down the woo-woo rabbit hole. But when everything changed for me was the moment that I took the law of vibration and frequency, stay with me, as a law, as an intrinsic belief, not just a concept, but it became a belief. And when that penny dropped for me, that it's all starts with me, and that I'm the thing that's going to determine whether I do or I don't become wealthy or become successful, is the moment everything shifted. Because up until that point, it was all about manifestation and, the law of attraction and all the things that people talk about. But if you meditate about money, it's not going to come jump on your head. You have to be on the same level as the things that you want. So it's you 99.9% of the time that gets in your way. And when that dropped in for me, is the moment everything shifted, because the most empowering part about that is you have control over that.
Yeah.
You get to change it. You get to be the driver of your destiny, and without sounding like a wanker, but it's so true.
Yeah, but you're in control.
It's no longer just a concept, you know? You are controlling the outcome. And that is so fucking powerful.
Yeah.
And also chasing one thing. My granddad said that if you chase 2 rabbits, Emily, you'll never catch one. And that is definitely
So we kept flipping
massive.
our rabbit. Our rabbit was just flipping. Just stay in your lane.
Stay in your
as they
lane.
say. But yeah, best advice I ever got was from a mentor who said, you're not doing development, you're staying doing flipping. And I fought her tooth and nail. I used to drop my bottom lip and kick my toys out of the sandpit every time we'd catch up. And then she quite blatantly pulled out in front of me at an event one day that the developers that I was aspiring to be were making $250,000, $300,000 on their projects, but their projects were taking 18 months to 2 years. And we'd just done a project in 4 weeks and made 180 grand.
Yeah.
And she's so you're going to do it for the significance of just being able to drive past something and say, oh, I built that? She goes, but you're not going to build it anyway. You're just going to do the paperwork and the shuffling. Or would you rather be doing what you're doing, create the money you're creating, and then have all the freedom that you want? And I was like, that makes more sense.
Yeah. Bingo.
But I want people to know that this podcast is us just sharing more of our beliefs and our story about how we were able to achieve what we've been able to achieve, but also bring on a bunch of other speakers as well that share their stories and hopefully just enlighten people to realize that we're all just humans and we're all just learning some things, implementing some things, taking action on some things. And sometimes those things work out, sometimes they don't. But if they don't work out, it doesn't mean that's it. Like, I tried that once, it doesn't work, it's no longer for me. I want this podcast to be about showing people that no matter what walk of life you come from, no matter what outcome you've got, you can have what you want if you actually know what you want, not what someone else wants you to want. And that goes back to what your level of freedom is. What does freedom mean to you? What does success mean to you? What does wealth mean for you?
Yeah, I'd second everything that you just said. We're so excited about the people that we've already interviewed so far on our podcast, and the speakers that we are bringing. They are top performers in their field, whether it be wealth, whether it be health, whether it be, personal empowerment and mindset. We strive so much to bring the best of the best to you guys through this. That's our goal. And one thing is true, that you are the product of the people that you spend the most amount of time with, or the 5 people that you spend the most amount of time with. So hopefully in doing this and in bringing these amazing, incredible caliber of people onto this show, it can rub off and have a ripple effect out there in the world and create empowerment in ways that we could never have imagined and change the lives of as many people as we possibly can. Because, you can drop a pebble in the water, in the pond, but it's not the impact of the pebble, but it's the ripple out effect that has the most and the greatest impact. So, we want to put a dent in the universe. Do it. AKA Steve Jobs.
Yeah, exactly. I just think like the amount of podcasts and audio books, audio universities, we used to call it, when we had to spend 2.5 hours in the car driving each way from work that I used to do, which makes me sick. And then even every event we've been to, we've spent hundreds of thousands of dollars on traveling all around the world doing events. And it's not necessarily the biggest events that you get the biggest impact or the biggest penny drop moments from. It can be the simplest. You might listen to an hour podcast and there might be one sentence in that podcast that is just something you needed to hear that day, or it's what you needed to hear to help you move to that next step. Just get over that hurdle that you might be facing. So my idea and my passion behind this whole project that we've been able to finally pull off the shelf is just hopefully being that for someone, that they just chuck the podcast on, they have a listen, whether it's some rubbish or bullshit comes out of my mouth, whether it's something phenomenal that comes out of this woman's mouth, or if it's a guest speaker that just says something that is just that penny that drops for you to go, I'm not the only one. Like, let's get out of here. Let's do it.
Just in closing, I can't believe this is real. This has been such a passion project. I'm so excited it's here. I feel like we've earned the right now to really do this.
Yeah.
And I couldn't be more excited. It feels surreal in a sense. I feel like I need to pinch myself that this is happening. But yeah, hopefully everyone enjoys it as much as we do.
We do.
And how excited we are to bring it to you. So, yeah, enjoy. We've spent the last 10 years, like I said, we've invested well over $300,000 in our own self-growth and education and learning and growing and absorbing and being sponges and implementing it in our own life. So hopefully we can bring half those people to you guys. And
right on that, implemented it. We didn't just go and learn about it. We didn't just go and hear it. We actually implemented the daily practices. And they're not that great. Like, they're not huge things that's going to completely change your life all at once. It's just small little things that can have make the biggest difference.
Yeah, so
we just
bring
want
it.
to be able to share those with you guys. Leave a comment in the chat. We'd love to hear from you guys. We'd love to hear some feedback. What is it that you want to know was the biggest moment for us, or what is it something that you want to know specifically that we can answer for you to help you move forward in your journey as well?
What stood out for you the most from today, and what did you get the most out of in this podcast today? We're really, really keen to find that out. So just drop it in the chat below, and don't forget to subscribe, please, because it'll help us get bigger, better, and more speakers to bring to you.
Absolutely.